Cadillac. Let's talk about Cadillac. Brand new to the grid, and you expect new teams to be bad, right? That's just kind of the reality of this sport. And it's rare that you see an expansion team at all, but to be completely brand new and setting everything up, putting the team together, finding the talent, building everything. It's all kind of come together really well on the marketing side for Cadillac. Two great drivers, lots of veteran help. Both have been on world championship winning teams. Let's talk about Cadillac. How did they look in Bahrain? How did the testing go for them?
So I think what is fair to say is that they are not bad, but they are slow. And that's exactly where we thought they'd be. Maybe, I think, if I'm honest, I would have expected them to be a lot worse than they are. They look like a proper, competent, safe Formula One team. They've done, Graham Loudon in particular has done an extraordinary job to get on very short notice, like a couple of months, a team together that works as well and that looks as competent as they are. They got a lot of mileage. Arguably, they could have gotten a lot more. But that car is heavy, is low on downforce because they went safe. They developed it early. They brought the chassis out in November. So there's more to come from that team. Will it challenge for points? No, but I was so impressed by the way they turned out in Bahrain. And it's a bit of a feel-good story. I think everybody's rooting for them. That helps. But we know how bad new teams can be. And this is completely different to my eyes.
Tim, your thoughts?
I thought this team was going to be a failure straight out of the gates. I didn't think they were going to make it to testing, and I didn't even think they were going to get 2 cars to the grid in Australia. When I saw everything in Silverstone last year, I think they've done such a great job. I think having Graham Loudon has been the difference maker. Mm-hmm. A man who's been through Formula One. He's been through with teams. He knows, he understands what it takes. He understands like what that leadership position looks like and what the leader needs to do of a Formula One team. I think having that backing from TWG, from, a little bit from GM, obviously, is huge. That is, I think, one of the most important things. Having Dan Towers be a part of that operation has been extremely, extremely important. I mean, if it wasn't for Dan, then this 11th entry is not on the grid. And outside of that, when we take a look at Australia, what's going to be interesting to me is how do they get by with fielding both cars? This is something they haven't done yet, right? They've fielded 1 car, but they haven't fielded 2 cars. And I said this on our last podcast, but when I sat down and spoke with Graham about this, he's like, that's one of the things that scares him the most is dealing with 2 cars on the grid for the beginning of Australia. It's a totally different beast, Adam, than what they were working with during testing.
Well, double the work, right?
100%.
And 2 different sets of problems, very likely. They're 2 different cars.
100%. But the amount of communication that now needs to go on, right? You're now not running just 1 crew inside of your garage. You're now running 2. Plus, you're running another like internal group back at headquarters for setup, simulation, race simulation. What do your strategies look like? What does the strategy department look like? See, these are all other things that this team needs to really suss out and see where those strengths internally are and where those weaknesses are. Because if you remember back when, like Ferrari, I want to say 2022, I believe it was, or 2023, I'm getting my years mixed up, but Charles Leclerc was pretty much in line for the victory, and strategy really failed him in Monaco, like really failed him. And so it's stuff like that, right? Like when you're on pace, maybe to score a point, like your first ever point, but your strategy department in a way fails you, then, those are other things that this is a team that has to build out. I I really am impressed though with the comms department as well. I know as sort of cheesy as that is to say, but in terms of like communicating with the team, it's been one of the more easier teams to really talk to, get information from, and yeah, I think they've done a great job on that department, and also messaging as well, because Nelson and I, we have to deal with team messaging and things of that nature, and I feel with what they've got going on there, it's been pretty good that way.
It seems that they are very aware of the scope of the challenge, and they're not running away from it, and not shying away from it, but they're also not using it as an excuse, but they're just getting on with it, and they know it's going to be tough. They know they're going to have a tough couple of years, but they've got to start somewhere, and as far as starts go, this is such a strong one. I hope they can develop the car. That'll be another challenge, developing parts when they're spread out over multiple bases. If you think teams like Aston Martin and Audi have it bad with multiple bases, the Cadillac team is really spread out in a way you don't normally see in F1 anymore. But that's all temporary. But yeah, Valtteri Bottas looked happy. Yes, the car looks heavy and difficult to drive, but it wasn't too slow. They were nipping at the heels, and I'm fairly certain it'll take a while for Aston Martin to overtake them in terms of pace. It is just solid, and they've tried not to take any risks, and so far they've taken a lot of good exits on the road to where they need to be, but the hard work starts now.
So Valtteri and Sergio, I want to talk to you guys about those guys before we get to our predictions. We got 3 minutes here. Valtteri and Sergio are both guys that are used to being frustrated. Obviously frustrated by otherworldly generational teammates, but also, I mean, Valtteri, was with Williams with some good and some bad times. He obviously had some good and some bad times with Sauber as well. Sergio was the first one to raise the flag, the alert sign about the Red Bull car and the direction they were taking, and nobody listened to him. How do you think they'll handle the frustration of this challenge? Because we can wax poetic about how great their attitudes are, but these are race car drivers, and they want to win.
The race car drivers that had no seat.
Yeah,
that's the difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's a great point that the Nelson makes, because I think you're going to see a different Sergio Perez. You're going to see a different, like, Valtteri Bottas, even though he wasn't that difficult to deal with anyways. But I think you're going to see two drivers who understand the privileged position that they've been put into. Getting back into Formula One is not easy. It's just, It's impossible. And now that Sergio's kind of got this second chance, he's going to treat this much differently. I just from people I've spoken to about it, his attitude coming in, it's different from when he had left. His attitude towards taking things as seriously as he did when he was at Red Bull Racing, but not only that, maybe taking things even more seriously than when things were going pear-shaped at Red Bull Racing for him. And so I think for the fans, yeah, you're probably going to see a much more jovial, open, I would say, of a Sergio Perez, and you're going to get the same old Valtteri Bottas, that's for sure.
Nelson, what do you think?
I think they're going to be very happy to be there early on. There will be frustrations because they're also winners, F1 winners. But the alternative is to not race. And a lot of these F1 drivers are addicted to F1 in a way that they're oblivious to other forms of motorsports. And I just think if you embrace the challenge, you see victories in every little thing. And if you keep that mindset, it could be quite an enjoyable process for them.
All right, prediction times, gentlemen. If if we knew the results of the constructors right now, where will Cadillac be 24 races from right now at the end of this season? Tim, what do you think?
11th.
You have them in last place, okay? And
well,
Nelson,
but I'm not like saying they're going to suck. I'm just saying that it's a competitive season, obviously. But I think for Cadillac, I have a feeling they may score some points this year, and I think that's all you can ask for, really. If you're this team, you have to remember, like, they literally just got their entry into Formula One, and to have a car this sophisticated out on the grid doing laps is very impressive.
Nelson, what do you think?
I agree with Tim. 11th, but a very competent 11th.
Okay, that's a lot more positive than I was expecting for a brand new Formula One team.